Hi, viewers, and welcome to your very own Tech and More. Hope you guys are doing awesome. Now, as part of the ongoing series that is mock interview for IT project management with different category question and answers, welcome to one more part. Now, before I talk about this video and all, I would just quickly share one thing with you that we had a good response on the first video, in the previous video, and we got a lot of questions from people who were preparing for IT project manager interviews. Shiva here answered them wonderfully. So in today's video, the category that we're going to talk about will be around project planning and execution. So I'll be asking some questions to Shiva. He'll be answering them from using his experience of more than 10 years. So before I ask the question, Shiva, again, welcome. And would you like to share anything before we start with the question and answers?
Yeah, Chaitanya, thank you so much for having second session. So I really enjoyed the first session, and people within my circle and on LinkedIn as well, they have really liked it. And you won't believe the kind of impressions that we got on that particular session was incredible. Means it was means I really liked it. Means it was like a good moment for me, and there were a couple of people who have reached out to me, and some people via you, and we were able to talk to them and then guide them. And they also asked us if we can take any mock interview. So there are certain mock interviews arranged with those people coming next week. So definitely we can share those feedback also with our audience. But yeah, it was a great experience. People really enjoyed it, and they said they asked me, I think they asked you also, like, are we going to have more sessions? So I said yes, there are more sessions planned ahead where I'm going to cover each important topic which is required in a project management or while you give an interview. So yes, thank you so much, Chaitanya, for arranging these kind of sessions for the larger audience.
That's wonderful to know. Let's start with the questions, Shiva. So as always, I
Yeah,
will be asking you a question from the category project planning and execution. Uh, you will
yeah,
be answering along with an example, right? And we'll try to make
yes,
it very to the point and very crisp. So, the
yeah.
viewers are also not bored in between, right? So let's start. Uh, uh, Tell me about a project you managed from initiation to closure, and how did you
Mm,
plan and track the progress?
yeah. So Chaitanya, again, a very important question. So these are like these. This is one of the questions that is generally asked, and every time I give interviews, so this is something that they really ask because we get into some complicated projects, and these steps are important. So in this question, what you have asked, the key important words for me is like initiation, closure, then plan and track progress. I think these are important keywords. So if I have to answer this, means when somebody is asking that question during the interview, and what is that I answer. So when I start a project, I focus on defining clear objectives. I think for everybody who is into IT or project management or any other vertical within the IT, defining clear objective is very important, right? In project management, defining clear objectives. Then I focus on defining the stakeholders and success criteria, because success criteria is very important. So I usually create a project plan that outlines timelines, milestones, and responsibilities. Okay. And to track progress, I use project management tools. Every organization have a different project management tool, and I can name some of them. So when I was in Deloitte, the project management tool which was used was ServiceNow, right? And in my present organization, the tool which is used is Zira. And many organizations they use Azure DevOps also. So every organization have a different tools that they use, but the prominent tools in the market is like Azure DevOps, and you have Zira, and then you have ServiceNow. And so, as I said, for I use project management tools, regular status meetings, and dashboards to keep everyone aligned. So these are important criteria for me. I also make sure to review progress frequently and adjust as needed. So it is my prime responsibility to be in touch with the engineering team on a daily basis or on a weekly basis to know what's the status. And moreover, when I'm part of the daily scrum calls and all the refinements and planning and everything is happening, I'm well aware that what is happening within my project or within my program. So, but still, I have a checkpoint with my engineering managers and my product owners and product managers just to validate that my understanding is aligned with what they means with their understanding, and I'm able to track the status. So basically, I track a status that what has happened in that week, what are the activities that we have planned, and are there any major risks and issues or any kind of dependencies with the other products. Okay, and at closure, I ensure we deliver the agreed outcomes. and capture lesson learned for future projects, right? So end of the project, what is important? Means did we deliver the agreed outcomes? Okay, because when you started at initiation, you have defined something. So what you have defined, whether you were able to deliver it or not. So definitely we have to deliver that. And once it got delivered, you captured lesson learned. Okay. And if I have to give an example, I have a lot of examples to give to help this conversation. So I can say that there was a project that I worked where you have to add additional features to the existing system. So we need to do a brainstorming, right? So first you have to define clear objectives, that what is the customer is expecting from that particular feature. So your product owner will come into a picture where they will do a discovery session, try to understand the entire feature, that what is that the customer is expecting. And once that feature is like completely done, and we do a scope checkpoint, and once the scope checkpoint is done, what we do, we start working on it. The development work starts. And me as a project manager, it's my responsibility to track the status, that how the development is happening. Are we able to meet the outcomes or not? Means the outcomes which got defined at the initial stages. Are we working on it? Are we like progressing towards it? And create a dashboard, create a status, work on status, share with the stakeholder that, okay, this is what we have discussed, and this is the status that is happening, and these are the timelines. Yeah. So that is how I do it.
Got it. That makes sense. So the next question is, how do you prioritize tasks when working with multiple competing deadlines? So there could be a lot of deadlines coming up and a lot of
Yes.
tasks at hand. So how do you manage that
Yes.
particular situation?
Yeah. So I think this is something like quite common in our area, Chaitanya. Right? So it's not that only one project that you work. You can work on like five different projects at the same time, right? Three projects at the same time. It all depends on which organization that you have. You are working with a very fast moving organization. You might do a multiple project. So let's take an example that I'm working on a multiple projects, and all projects are very important to me, right? It's
Right.
not that one is important, the other. So all projects are important to me. However, to answer that question, I prioritize by looking the business value, right? So when you start a project, you have a business case, you have a business value, okay? You have the urgency, and you have the dependencies, go to market strategy, what is the revenue and all that stuff, okay? I try to balance what is most critical for success with what can be realistically achieved within the timeline. So these are the analysis that I do. And when I'm doing this analysis, I'm not the only person which is doing it. I also partner with product manager and the product owner and engineering manager, where I'm doing all this analysis with. Okay. I also communicate with stakeholders to make sure everyone agrees on the priorities. Okay. For me, the stakeholder is very important. Any decision, any analysis, whatever I do, I have to have a consent. I have to have an agreement with that particular stakeholder. Okay, next, clear planning and regular check-ins help me stay on top of completing my deadlines. So irrespective of whether I'm working on a multiple projects or multiple completing deadlines, I create my milestones, I create dates to those milestones, and I work towards it. I draw a very good line that what is important at what time, what has to go, right? And I also communicate with my stakeholders. So in simple words, what is that I have to do? I understand the business value, I understand the dependencies, and I'll try to identify the critical for success. And that is how I work with multiple completing deadlines.
Got it.
So for this, I really don't want to give an example, because these are the situations where everybody in my place will go through this, where
Right.
they have to prioritize it. Yes.
No, no, I agree. Of course, every question cannot have an example, but yeah, that sounds like a wonderful answer. So the next question is: have you ever had to manage a project with unclear requirements? And I'm sure you have had these experiences because all of us have had.
Yeah.
But how did you handle
Yes.
it
Yeah.
as a project manager?
Yeah, so Chaitanya, I think it's a good question that when we look into the SOW, you have a scope, right? So, and we work towards that scope, and we connect with the customer, do a kickoff meeting, do a discovery session, and all that stuff, right? So, why we do all those meetings? All those meetings, all those working sessions and workshops are done just to make sure that the requirements are clear. Okay, there are many situations where your scope document or SOW document says something, and when you're talking to the customer, the things are very different. Okay, that's the reason you hold discovery sessions and workshops with the customer to understand, to validate what has been mentioned on the document. Are we going to work on that? And sometimes I've seen that we have completely worked on a different things, not 100% of the document, but like 20% to 30% of the document and the new stuff. So yes, to answer, yeah, we do work on such kind of situations just to make sure that we are not completely working on it. We do a lot of workshops so that we all are aligned to it. Yes, in those situations, like to your question that have you managed a project with unclear requirements? Yes. Yes, in those kind of situations, I focus on breaking down the problem into smaller pieces. Okay. A problem is a problem. It's very big, but to ease myself, I break down into smaller pieces and getting frequent feedback from stakeholders. Okay. Because if I'm not getting a feedback from my stakeholders, there are two things, right? I'll feel that I'm doing the best. The other thing is that things are not working smartly or as expected. So timely feedback from the stakeholder is very important, like a sprint demo, what we do with the stakeholder, okay, which is very important, where we get a feedback on the product that we're developing or any application that we're developing. Next, I might use workshops that I've told you, right? I might use workshops, prototypes, or short iterations to clarify needs. Okay, to clarify needs. With whom? With customer, with my stakeholder. Okay. I also make sure assumptions are documented. Okay. In project management language, you have RAID, RAID. Okay. You have RAID. Maybe in next session, I can tell the abbreviation of it. But from this RAID, A stands for assumptions. So in project management, you make assumptions. Okay. And risks are tracked. So we can adjust as requirements become clear. So basically, what I am doing in this situation is that I'm breaking down the problems into smaller pieces. And then I'm connecting with the customer and taking a constant feedback from the customer. And what I'm doing, I'm holding a workshop, prototypes, or short iterations to clarify the needs. With that, my team will be clear that, okay, this is what I have to develop. Okay. And I also make sure that assumptions are documented. All the assumptions of the customer or whatever the team is doing, they are well documented and risk are tracked. In project management, two things will happen: risk versus issues, risk or issues. And me being a project manager or anybody being a project manager, how they handle it, that is very important. Okay. So we can adjust as requirements become clearer. So that's my response to this question. If somebody is asking that, how you manage it. So this is what I'll tell them.
Got it. Got it. That makes sense. So
Yeah.
the next and the last question is that how do you define and manage project scope? And at the same time, how do you avoid the scope creep in that?
Yeah. Okay. So I think this is a very tricky question. Scope creep, it happens. Okay. And defining and manage a project scope, that is very important because we should have a clear requirement and freeze requirement or freeze scope. In our last session, I was talking about a triangle, a golden triangle, right? A golden triangle in project management, in that you have like scope, schedule, and cost. And Chaitanya, this question is talking about how you define manage project scope. It's a very important, it's a part of that triangle on the top. Okay. So to answer this question, scope is defined by setting clear boundaries. Okay. You have to set a clear boundaries, deliverables, and acceptance criteria at the start of the project. Okay. And acceptance criteria, whose role is that? It's a role of a product owner or a business analyst, where they have to write the user stories, and for every each user story that the engineering team used to develop, they should have a proper acceptance criteria. Okay. That says that my scope, that is how I manage my project scope. Okay. To manage it, I rely on change control, or any new request is reviewed for impact on time, cost, and quality before being approved. I also keep open communication with stakeholders. I personally feel that whatever happens within your project or scope, or any changes, or if the scope is not clear, always be very open and transparent to your stakeholders and customers. Don't lie to them. However, it depends at how you articulate with them. Your articulation skills are very important. Means sometimes being direct is not that great, but you need to articulate in a way that they are able to understand and it's not an escalation. Okay. So coming back to that question, as I've told you, I also keep open communication with stakeholders. So expectations are managed and scope creep is minimized. So I have answered two things. Like you asked me that how I handle the scope creep. So I also, since I've told you that I also keep an open communication with stakeholders. So expectations are managed and scope creep is minimized. So basically, it's a conversation, it's a discussion that we do, and with that discussion, we will be able to get into a common conclusion or a common point that, okay, this is my scope and this is what we have to do. And we make sure that everybody's capacity is taken into consideration and we are not over committing it or less committing it. So if we are over committing it, maybe at that point of time, a scope creep can happen. But in that workshop that we are doing, we make sure that we are discussing all this, setting up the boundaries, and coming to a common conclusion. With that, our scope is freezed, we are able to manage the scope, and we are also avoiding the scope creep. So this would be my answer, where I give more explanations if more questions are asked, but to on a straightforward way, this is my straightforward answer to the question that you have asked.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That sounds good. So I think for this particular segment or this category, I'm done here. In the next category, what is going to be the topic, Shiva? Is it going to be
We are going to discuss about risk and issue management.
or
Means it's a very important topic, like how do we handle risk and means issues if something is happening on your project or burning, how we handle it. Yeah.
right, right. So for the viewers, that is going to be the next video all about. The question and answers will be on this category. So I'll stop right here. Thank you so much for being here, Shiva. And for the viewers, you want to ask anything to Shiva, feel free to comment on the video. We are quite proactive on the channel in the comments. You want to reach out to him directly, you can do that. I'll share his LinkedIn profile with you as well. So yeah, I think we're good. And thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you, Chaitanya. Thank you, everybody who is going to watch our session.